it's what, 11:07 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10:07 Central, 8 p.m. Pacific. So people are just getting off work, winding down, decompressing from probably a long day at work. So if this is the way you're ending your day, then good, you came to the right place. But let's take the obvious. All right, Oleksandr Usyk, with this win, he cemented himself as an all-time great, which supersedes being a Hall of Famer. I mean, there's a lot of Hall of Famers, but there's very few all-time greats. That distinguishing category of being the who's who of the sport. That's what he is. He's up there with and this may, because anytime you start saying things like this, but it's just the truth. He's up there with the Muhammad Alis and the George Foremans and the Lennox Lewises and the Joe Lewises as the greatest heavyweight of all time. He is. Why? Because anytime you become the man in an era, you automatically, get put in that conversation. So much like Ali in the 70s and Joe Louis in the 1920s and whatnot, and Lennox Lewis in the 90s. The minute you become the man in your era, you are put in that conversation. You are put in that rarefied air. So that's where he's at. And I think us, the boxing fans, we should all be happy. We should all be grateful that we have an undisputed champion, that we got to live through this. I know for me, I've covered Usyk for a long time here on this channel. I'm very grateful to see him reach the pinnacle of the sport, which is becoming not just undisputed, but becoming undisputed in the most important division there is in the sport. So let's talk about it. Go to screen share, right? So as you can see, Usyk has emerged as the undisputed king of this era, and it's a fact. I mean, it's crazy because he was never the establishment guy. He was never the guy that the powers that be or that the boxing industry wanted to be the heavyweight champion. Because, I mean, let's look at it. You can start with a guy like AJ, and we'll talk about, and I'll have something to say about AJ at the end of the live, but AJ was the gold medalist. He was the guy that had the red carpet rolled out for him. Everything perfect, first class treatment. Gets to fight Charles Martin for the IBF title. He wasn't able to become undisputed because him and the guy to his right on the picture, they could never come to an agreement because they were playing A side, B side. And it was really annoying for a lot of those years. 28. I remember being here for that, covering that here on YouTube. Joshua and Wilder. Eddie Hearn sending Wilder flat fee offers, Wilder rejecting the $120 million, Wilder sending a $50 million offer, but with no proof of funds. I mean, it was nothing short of a shit show. So it wasn't meant to be back then. Then you had Tyson Fury, right? Tyson Fury comes out of nowhere, does his thing, beats Wilder a couple times. A lot of people, including myself, I always thought that Fury would be the man of the era. And maybe if he wins the rematch, he could probably, become the man of the era again. And that's a big if, But right now, the guy that was the first undisputed heavyweight champion, and they can never take it from him, the guy that broke the cycle of us, we heavyweight boxing since Lennox Lewis went through some dark periods. I mean, you think about like post Lennox Lewis, the Klitschko era. You had Vladimir and Vitaly holding up the division hostage. You had like Oleg Muskayev having a belt. Then you had like random fighters like Sergey Lyakovich and Shannon Briggs holding the belts. And the heavyweight division has gone through so many different phases since Lennox Lewis was a champion. So the fact that we finally got to this point in this day and age of boxing where there's so much politics and there's so much bureaucracy going on, it's amazing. So he is the man of the era. It's the Usyk era. This fight had a lot of cultural relevance because I saw this on Twitter and I wanted to share with you guys. So during the NBA playoffs, during the Denver Nuggets Minnesota Timberwolves Game 7, Reggie Miller, who does commentary for TNT, he said that the Nuggets are on the ropes and out, just like Tyson Fury. So the fact that you even got people here in the States just making casual references to heavyweight boxing let you know that this fight was a big deal and it moved the needle, and it's a win for the sport. When they say oftentimes boxing goes as the heavyweight division goes, and this fight is no different. It's no different. So it's good to see the fact that people who are not hardcore boxing fans actually paid attention to this fight just because of the fact it was a heavyweight undisputed title fight. And we never got that in the social media era, so it's the first of its kind. And I think every boxing fan is going to remember where they were, what they were doing, who they were with the day that Usyk beat Fury to become undisputed. Now, as far as Oleksandr Usyk, I want to just kind of unpack his resume and kind of give it a little historical context, because he's officially the Evander Holyfield of our era. And speaking of Holyfield was a great fighter. I mean, Holyfield, undisputed in multiple weight classes, fought all the giants and managed to become the guy in the division, right? One of the deepest resumes in the history of boxing, Evander Holyfield, right? So this was Usyk's sixth fight as a heavyweight. Just so you guys know, we know that 2019 was his heavyweight debut against Chaz Witherspoon. Since then, he's fought Witherspoon, Chisora, Joshua twice, Dubois, and Fury. So that's an even 6 fights. Now, funny enough, right? If you do that same exercise for Holyfield actually became undisputed in the same amount of fights. So if you look at Holyfield's heavyweight resume, he made his heavyweight debut right here against James Quick Tillis in 88. All right. So then he fought Pinklin Thomas. Then he fought Michael Dokes. Then he fought Addison Rodriguez. Then he fought Alex Stewart. I think I might have miscounted. I think he did it in 7. Hold on, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I'm actually wrong. So they didn't do it in the same amount of fights. Usyk actually went undisputed 1 fight quicker at heavyweight than Holyfield did. So that tells you, the caliber of fighter he is. Once you start comparing yourself to the all-time greats like Evander Holyfield, and you're slightly outpacing him, that shows you, Usyk, and that shows you his greatness in the sport. So, yeah, it's crazy. I didn't go through the trouble of counting the rounds, but I mean, Holyfield only had 18 fights at cruiserweight. I think Usyk has he has 22 fights now. So Usyk actually wound up moving up to heavyweight a little earlier than Holyfield. Holyfield was 18-0 before he fought at heavyweight. Usyk was 16-0 before he fought heavyweight. So he did it a little quicker than Holyfield. And let's be real, Holyfield beat James Buster Douglas to become heavyweight champion. And, all respect to Buster Douglas, we know that, he had one of the greatest upsets ever. But Buster Douglas was the Buster Douglas that fought Mike Tyson and the Buster Douglas that fought Holyfield are not the same fighter. And it's not Holyfield's fault per se. It's just that Buster Douglas, he had the motivation of fighting for his mother. His mother just died before the Tyson fight. And then he put on the performance of his life, and Mike Tyson didn't take him serious as well. So that it was a perfect storm. And then he didn't come into the same condition when he fought Holyfield. So if you're comparing the Douglas that fought Holyfield to the Tyson Fury that Usyk fought, it's night and day. So I think, it's going to be it's always hard to compare the guys from different eras, because, Holyfield was in an interesting era where he kind of came in toward the end of the 15-round era, and then as a cruiserweight, and then then it went into 12. So you can't always do an exact comparison, but I think if somebody said right now Oleksandr Usyk had a better career and was better than Holyfield, you may agree or disagree with it, but at this point, it's not crazy. It really isn't, especially when you start going through and you really start checking their careers and how they went about things and how things went. And mind you, Usyk's career, we know it's coming to an end. It's closer to the end now than it is to the beginning, but he's gonna be an all-time great. He's gonna go in the Hall of Fame on the first ballot. And yeah, I mean, what can I say? What can I say about Usyk that hasn't been said already? I mean, with a guy like that, you almost run out of things to say, because that's the level he's operating at. But let me see. Shout out to everybody here. It's your boy BT, the untouchable True School Sports Empire. We're live at night. Hold on. Let me go ahead here. So got a couple comments. Here. Shout out to everybody dropping their comments. I'm gonna run through the comments before I get to my next point. So my man Christopher says, BT, what it do? Good to see you, Chris. Brett says, shout out to Chris. Lord Zed says, my opinions are Fury had Usyk hurt to the head and body, primarily in the 6th. Usyk had a strong second half and showed how truly great he is. I think Usyk was vulnerable when Fury came forward. I think, I'm gonna quote Stephen Breadman Edwards. He had a really great tweet during the week where he said that Usyk doesn't have the Like when you watch him in his fights, he's very good. He's great. He's amazing, but he doesn't have like the wow factor, and he's not quite passing the eye test like an Inoue or Crawford. But when he's in these close fights, he called it a clutch round. When you get to points in fights, and Usyk needs a round, he might be the best fighter in boxing at winning those clutch rounds. And this fight was like the best example of that. You had Tyson Fury, them first 7 rounds. I felt like Tyson Fury kind of took what he used to do really well, like back when he was fighting Klitschko and all those guys, when he was a lighter fighter who would move and use his speed. And then he took some of the stuff that Sugar Hill Stewart showed him over the years, and he kind of morphed it together, and it was looking like he was not going to be beaten on this night. But again, when we got to the second half of the fight, Usyk showed that he was the more mentally stronger fighter and the better fighter, so that's what it was. Lord Deo says big words, BT. What did I say that were big words? They want to know what's my favorite food. My favorite food is like salmon. I like tater tots. That's how I feel. Lord Zell wants to know, it seems rematch won't be for Undisputed, right, BT? No, it's not. It's not. And I'm going to go ahead and talk about that because this was already mandated like months ago. That's why I don't understand why boxing fans are getting all pissed off. And I'll talk about later on. But like IBF said long ago that Usyk was going to fight, or not Usyk, but the winner of this fight was going to have the IBF belt stripped because Filip Hrgovic's been the mandatory since August of 2022. So it's not really surprising if you've been paying attention, but a lot of people aren't. So it is what it is. Last question, and I'm gonna get back to my talking points. Thomas Santos says fair PS1 and PS2 games. That's a great question. PS1, I didn't play as much. I played it, but I would say PS1 probably anything with Crash. I play a lot of Crash Bandicoot on PS1. PS2, I got a PS2 right now. There's so many great games on PS2. My favorite game, I got a couple favorites. I like Tony Hawk Underground. I like NHL Hits 2003. I like 50 Cent Bulletproof, Grand Theft Auto Vice. I mean, there's a lot of great PS2 games. It's hard to pick just one, but yeah. But nonetheless, look, I know you guys. I know I'm gonna get this question a lot. I know a lot of people are gonna say, "Oh, well, True School BT, the Untouchable." Where do you have Usyk pound for pound? Is he your number one? Now, look, I haven't really thought too deeply about it. I feel like you can't go wrong with Crawford, Inoue, or Usyk. Now, to be honest with you, I'm not even talking. I don't even care about pound for pound. Oleksandr Usyk is the baddest man on the planet. Who gives a damn about pound for pound? He's the undisputed heavyweight champion. I don't give a damn how many times Inoue moves up, right? It's not like no, I don't want to say that. Let me retract that. It's hard. It's really hard to pick a guy. It's hard. It's all subjective, right? But when you look at what Usyk has done in his career, like we have a lot of fighters in boxing that there are a lot of flash but no substance. This guy's all substance and damn near no flash. I mean, he's chock full of substance. Let's go back to the resume, right? Because I want to really make you guys understand that Usyk's been doing this thing for a long time, right? So basically, his first 8 or 9 fights, give or take, he was just in Europe and Ukraine and Poland and whatever, Germany here and there. Then he fought Krzysztof Glowacki, right? Krzysztof Glowacki. So I would say his real career starts right there in September of 2016 when he fights Krzysztof Glowacki. Okay, Krzysztof Glowacki was a great cruiserweight, a fantastic cruiserweight. Krzysztof Glowacki was WBO champion. Krzysztof Glowacki knocked out Marco Huck to become WBO champion. Marco Huck, one of the best cruiserweights of all time, had a truckload of defenses. So that was his first real quality win. And he beat him easily. It wasn't even no hard fight for him, right? Then when he came to the States and he fought the BC Umchunu, solid contender, good guy, beat him easily. Michael Hunter was a phenomenal, a fantastic fighter, a guy that, didn't ultimately fulfill any of his, I don't think he quite lived up to his potential Not saying that Hunter would have been some sort of heavyweight champion or anything like that, but Hunter should have been a higher level contender than he's been in his career. Usyk fought Hunter when he was super young in his 13th pro fight, beat him easily, and dropped him in the 12th round, right? So beat him. Then he beats Marco Huck. So now we're getting into the World Boxing Super Series. Huck beats Marius Breedis, takes his O. That wins aged well because Breedis has went on to become the lineal champion, and to this day, even on that card, Breedis is still fighting at the highest of levels. He's one of the greatest cruiserweights in history. Beat him when he was undefeated. Murat Kassiev, a guy that wanted to become a heavyweight. Fantastic champion, beat him, in the final, and then like Usyk could have just stopped there. He could have stopped at Gassiev, but then he was like, nah, you know what? I'm gonna fight Bellew too while I'm at it, then beat him easily. So, it's just a lot of, and that's just cruiserweight. That's just cruiserweight, So my thing is, I think he's got as great of an argument as anybody for pound for pound number one. Just because when you look at the weight class jumps, right? And like take Inoue, for example, right? And you guys know I love the lower weight classes. I love the smaller divisions because the fights happen. But Inoue is not jumping up 7 pounds, right? And so if he's not jumping up 7 pounds, then he would have had to have fought someone on the caliber of the guys Usyk has fought. And Inoue's fought some very good fighters. He fought Donaire, who's going to be a future Hall of Famer. He fought Stephen Fulton, who's a very good fighter. But those guys, at the time he fought them, or just in general, they're not Tyson Fury. They're not Anthony Joshua. They're not Marius Breedis. I mean, you can make the argument that Oleksandr Usyk has 3 Hall of Famers on his resume, which would be Fury, Joshua, and I think Marius Breedis, there's a debate to be had that he might be a Hall of Famer because he's one of the best fighters in the history of a weight class. So anytime you're one of the best fighters in the history of a weight class, you should get some Hall of Fame consideration. So I'm not mad at anybody who has any of those guys in the pound number one. I really don't even want to get into it. Honestly, I feel like if we get into the pound for pound talk, it almost will take away from the significance of this moment we're in. We're in an amazing moment in history that we have not experienced. I know I've never experienced it as a boxing fan. I didn't start watching boxing till like I was 6. So even when I started watching boxing, that was 2001. There still wasn't no undisputed heavyweight champion. So whoever you had number one, that's your prerogative. I would say that Usyk has beaten the most. I think if you look at Inoue, Crawford, and Usyk has beaten the most high-level undefeated fighters. Like Inoue beat some undefeated fighters. Crawford's beat some undefeated fighters, but they didn't beat like a Tyson Fury undefeated fighter. They didn't beat a Marius Breedis caliber undefeated fighter. So for that reason, I feel like, yeah, I probably have number one, but these things always change. I feel like, Bivol, like I said, Bivol beats Beterbiev or Beterbiev beats Bivol, then there'll be an argument for that. So I'm to that point now where it's like, pound for pound is fun to talk about, but I really don't get into it too much these days just because it's like it could almost take away from your appreciation for fighters. I can tell you, listen, now look, if you got Usyk, cool. If you got Crawford, cool. If you got Inoue, number one, cool. Any one of those guys can be number one. I'm gonna tell you who's not pound for pound number one. I don't want to hear no more talk about Canelo Alvarez being number one because he's not anywhere close to pound for pound number one. I don't give a damn. He's not doing nothing close to what Usyk's done in his career. Same thing with the other guys. I don't want to hear anything about Canelo being number one. If you sit here and tell me Canelo Alvarez is number one pound for pound, I'm gonna freaking block you. I'm gonna get you out of here because it's ridiculous. But what do you guys think? What's your take on pound for pound? Are there any newcomers that could challenge Usyk? If there were newcomers, it doesn't matter because I think really and truthfully, when he fights Fury in that rematch, no matter how, unless Fury beats him like decisively and they want to do a trilogy fight, if he fights Tyson Fury and beats him, he's going out on top. He's going to do that last fight, get that last payday, and then go ahead and bow out gracefully. That's how I see it going. There's no other way it can go. I mean, but if he stayed around, if he wanted to fight somebody outside of Tyson Fury, I think, and people are going to say I'm crazy, I still think Filip Hrgović would give Oleksandr Usyk a great run for his money, but I don't think those fights are really going to happen. So it is what it is. Now, shout out to my boy Rafael Calvo out there in Vegas. He says, it has to be Usyk. He waited for Fury after that injury and after Ngannou SMH. Yeah, he did. That he did. And what makes Usyk so impressive, like to me, the most impressive thing about him becoming undisputed is that he was never supposed to be the guy. Like he wasn't the guy that the boxing industry wanted to. There was like they wanted Joshua, they wanted Fury, and they wanted Wilder. Those are the guys that they wanted to be number one pound for pound. All those guys had more powerful people behind them than what Usyk had. So Usyk had all that against him. He still became undisputed. That to me is true greatness. It's a little easier to be undisputed when you're like Inoue or Canelo, and a lot of things are stacked in your favor. I'm not saying that those guys wouldn't have become undisputed anyway, but I'm saying when you're not the establishment guy and you still become undisputed, that shit is impressive, and that's why it's more impressive to me. Inhale Marty says, at True School Sports, I love your takes. I train boxing in Medellin, Colombia. My trainer is an ex-pro fighter who has a dream of opening a gym here. He's going to Florida next month. Maybe you can link. What's his name? I know one person in Colombia that has a gym. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. But yeah, shout out to Medellin, Colombia. I've always that's one country I want to go to one day. I just went to Nicaragua, but I want to go to Colombia one day. See what it's like over there. I've heard amazing things about Colombia. So shout out to you. Thank you for the support. Usyk is my number one pound for pound after beating the much bigger Tyson Fury. I got Inoue 2 and Bud 3 because it's stagnated. If Bud beats Madrimov, it'll shift again. I don't know, man. Like, I guess he'll be a 4 division champion, so that's impressive. But I'm not really too gassed about Madrimov. But I hear you. I hear you. Nah. I can't really get mad at Canelo anymore. It's hard to get mad at Canelo. I actually believe it or not, because he beat Jaime Munguia the way he beat him, I like Canelo because I can't stand Munguia. Munguia was one of the most overprotected fighters in boxing. So when Canelo beat him, it actually made me like Canelo a little more. But yeah, how could I get mad at Canelo? When he already went ahead in 2022 and got exposed by Dmitry Bivol. So once that happened, once Bivol exposed him, and there were like I actually can't get mad at him anymore because it's just been proven too many times that he's a very good fighter. But when you put him up against some A-level top creme de la creme guys, he's not Usyk, he's not Crawford, he's not those guys. So I can't get mad. It's actually like I really can't get mad about Canelo anymore.